Hello, fellow plant enthusiasts. So I purchased this Pinguicula lutea, and if you notice, this is a sundew, and that is a different sundew. This one looks more like a Drosera capillaris, and this may actually be a small Drosera capenensis. So this is native but an annual, and that is tropical from South Africa. I hope it's an intermediate. It's just a little too small to tell, but I believe it's might be a capenensis when it grows bigger. We'll see. But anyway, so Pinguicula luteas are iffy in my climate zone, so they may or may not survive the winter. So I'm going to plant it in this bud vase or bulb vase, and I have plenty of Nepenthes pitcher plants and even a Sarracenia in bulb vases and even a tiny Venus flytrap seedling, but this will be my first. So when you look at it, it's a little smaller than the pot, but that's not a big deal. It's still big enough. So the first thing I want to do is figure out a way to keep everything from falling in there. So fortunately, I have a bottle, and if you look at it, the taper on this bottle goes really well with the angle of the vase. Not all water bottles do that. So I'm going to basically take the bottle, take the scissors, and cut. Like so. And you have something rough like this that you can start trimming and whittling it down. Fortunately, I already have one that I did that to. Now, when you look at it, it sits in there quite nicely. So now I need to have some holes. Now, taking some scraps from your macrame projects, I actually couldn't find any of this synthetic fiber versus cotton just because this is a carnivorous plant. I had to cut a piece off a roll, but you want a piece that's long enough to sit there at the bottom. And you look at the thickness versus that. So I had to take a drill bit, and I didn't really sit through looking at sizes, but something comparable. So now I need to drill some holes into this. So I'm drilling on the side 1, 2, 3, 4 if I can. We'll see. There's 2. So I have 4 holes. I'm not too worried about the plastic that's peeling out. I can always take a box cutter and run it along the rim, or a pair of scissors. If you're using a box cutter, you're just going to run it this way, but with the groove on the scissors. It's not anything crucial, but you know, if I can get some of it just to be a little cleaner, why not? So now I have that, and the reason why I made 4 as opposed to only 2 for the wick is because I need some drainage. Let me clear this off and show you. So I'm going to literally take the wick and run it through there. Now I can always unscrew this and then run it in there. So as you can see, I'm running it that way and this way. So just opposites, but I want to make sure this can fit in the hole right. So what's nice is because this wick is braided, it's easier to do it without it unwinding versus if it was just twisted in. So now I have that which looks unsightly. And if I were to screw this in, okay, and set it in here, Notice how I have plenty of wicking, so I can actually trim these and not end up with it too short. So I'm going to go ahead and do that just so they look better. But if you leave it all fluffy, it will actually help soak up any residual water if you forget to water it. So it's not a big ordeal. And then make sure I pull the thread out. You can always take something like a screwdriver or scissors if you need to. And I set this in, it's still touching the bottom, even though I have this extended greatly. I'm going to extend it just down a little. So now I have the string sitting up there. I have this thing to plop in there. And this is peat moss as opposed to long fiber. I have some long fiber on standby should I need it, but I'm going to just pull this out. Just plop it off if I can. You know, butterworts have fairly shallow roots. Whoops. But I'm going to just set it in there, and it's too much. So I can, whoops, make a mess. That's what I can do. But I'm going to also do a little groove and just set it in here. I'm going to keep those sundews alive in here and let them grow. So this is how I have it. And as I water, it's going to be a pain to water this. I'll tell you now. Sometimes when you set these up, you can always first fill it up and then keep it going. But basically, this is how I have it. And I can either slowly water this and let it percolate down, which by doing so, I'm hoping the peat moss will fill in there over time. And by having the extra drainage holes, it should soak down in there. So just watering this and letting it drain. You don't want to overwater, and you don't want all this hair in the way. But I'm just watering a little, letting it soak, and then adding more. There's the dead sundew there. Here's the live one. This way it doesn't just drip down the sides. But also you can continue to press as you water. So as I water, this is so saturated and it's percolating in there, but ever so slowly, and most of it's coming outside. So I'm going to be just basically pressing this down with a toothpick, because you see how soggy it is? It's going to pour out the side. So this way I can actually just poke it in, twist it out, and just keep poking. And you create air bubbles. It will actually be fine for the plant. But this is a good way to whittle it down. Because once it's settled in and this is not bulging up, the watering will not be an issue. But sometimes things settle, so I always end up overfilling just because of that. And this is actually doing a good job using a toothpick, so I'm impressed. But also pushing down all the way will cause more peat moss to fall until it fills up the gap at the underneath. So now looking at it, it's slowly filling, but I'll just let it percolate down and then add more, and over time it will fill up and I'll have a good wicking setup going. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video and are inspired to do your own. If you have any modifications, feel free to share videos of your own, and together we can work at perfecting these processes. So thanks for watching and happy planting.